right, everybody, welcome back. We're going to do our horse introduction for the Energy Equine Veterinary Services and InHand Equine Therapy conditioning study that myself, Kim Krebs, Dr. Chad Hewlett, and the rehab tech at Energy Equine, Megan Orange, have been working on. We're pretty excited about this. So we'd like to introduce you to the horses now. We're going to start with Kim's first horse. Kim, can you tell us the name of the first horse that you have in the study?
Sure. So the first one is a horse of mine. His name is Neverey Cat, is his registered name. We call him Neverey for short.
Excellent. And how old is our friend Neverey?
Neverey is 12.
And is what breed is he?
He is a quarter horse, gelding. So his gelding, though, did come later on in life. He was about 7 years old when he was gelded.
Okay, excellent. And does he have some babies out there?
He does.
Oh, neat. Up here in Canada or just in the States?
Up here in Canada, mainly all in Canada, actually. He stood as a stud up here, so.
And that's cute.
Yeah.
We are going to post some pictures of these horses, so you might have to find us a little baby picture of some babies of his.
I can try to do that.
What is his height and weight?
He is approximately 15 hands and weighing about 970 pounds. So I'm just using a tape. So, you know, sometimes you're a little bit off on those.
Tell us a little bit about his housing and environment.
Sure. So he currently lives primarily out in a 1 acre pasture with his friend, Julie. And then at night, they both come in to their separate stalls and is in a stall. Usually it's between 6 and 7 o'clock at night right now. Just it varies a little bit based on the weather and also obviously the daylight. And then in the morning, it's usually between 6:30 and 7 in the morning that they go back out to pasture. So 12 hours about.
Cool. And what is the footing like in your pasture? Is it hilly? Is it flat?
It's flat. Yeah, we live in pretty flat country up here.
And tell us about his feed and supplement routine.
Sure. So at the moment, his is pretty basic, always has been pretty basic. He is during the day out on a bale that is covered with a hay net so that it's the gradual feed. And then at night, he's brought in and he gets his beet pulp. So it's a cup that is soaked. And then he gets a cup of the Pro Fiber Crunch and then a mineral. And that essentially is all that he's currently on. Yeah. And then at night as well, he'll get a flake of hay later on so that he just has a little bit of time in between, obviously, where he's not just without anything in his tummy.
Okay, fantastic. Super. And what is his farrier schedule?
Every 6 weeks. And currently he's just on a trimming cycle. We don't have him in shoes, although when he is being ridden, he does get shoes put on because he has pretty soft feet. So he'll get quite sore if we're riding him anywhere where there's harder ground.
Okay, super. And teeth and vaccine schedule?
So he's been on a once a year program with the teeth, although we will probably be bumping that up to every 6 months. Only just as a check-in if need be, because other horses that are on the property right now are needing that every 6 months. So I'm going to just have them checked at the same time, just in case. But they've been pretty standard, nothing major in terms of dentistry issues. And his vaccinations, he gets his boosters every year. The 6-way is what he gets. And yeah, I think that pretty basic. He does go when he's in a show routine, he will go every 6 months for a maintenance check where he'll go through his flexions and see if there's anything else needed to be done from a maintenance perspective.
Fantastic. Okay. And any health issues on him? Does he have anything with his body that you have to maintain in any way other than soundness things, which we'll get into in a little bit?
Yeah, no, he's pretty basic. It's nice to have a horse like him around, that's for sure. Just the odd time that he's had his hocks looked at, but as I say, we'll get into that a little bit further as we get into his program.
So let's jump into performance now. Tell us a little bit about his young horse history, anything that you know about that.
Sure. So I came into Neverey's life when he was a coming 3-year-old, into his 3-year-old year as a horse. He was born and bred down in Texas with the intent of being a cutting horse. And at that point, he was started as a 2-year-old and was sold to a fellow here in Canada. Pardon me. So then he came to Canada to finish his training as a 3-year-old. And they took him back down to Texas for the NCHA Futurity in December of his 3-year-old year. At that point, then came back to Canada to finish off and continue with his show career. I shouldn't say finish off, just continue with his show and training career. And so he showed extensively through the Alberta Cutting Horse Association. And they also took him to a number of competitions down in Texas, California, Idaho, Utah. So extensively shown up until he was a 6-year-old. So the end of his aged events. And at that point, he was sold to a different owner whose intentions for him were different. So he chose to geld him and use him as a cattle penning horse, as well as doing some mounted shooting and some mountain riding, trail riding type activities with him.
Cool.
To just as a aside, not indicating any lack of performance on his part as a cutting horse. It was simply just a new owner situation that they wanted to change his career for their own purposes, not because of him. And then I was very fortunate. This was a horse, as I indicated, I had known extensively and cared for while he was in his cutting career. And so when the opportunity came up that he happened to come for sale, very fortuitously saw it on Facebook and ended up purchasing him 2 years ago. And he, definitely one of those very special horses to me. So I did not do pre-purchase or anything. I just bought him.
Oh, fun. Okay.
Yeah, just brought him home.
Had to have it.
Yeah, my hope and what I've been working with him in terms of his training then has been to continue on to try and bring him back to a cutting career, because he was such an exceptional cutting horse. So that's what we've been working on in the last 2 years.
Cool. All right. And with you riding him, now that you've had him, can you give us just a little bit of kind of recent ride history before he had the block of time off that put him into this study that we're doing here with Energy Equine?
Yeah, so I purchased him May, I guess it was, 2020? So 2018. And at that point was so keen on the fact that I now owned this magical horse that we went right into trying to get him to show again. Not the best idea for him. He wasn't quite prepared for the show pen. And he was sound, everything was fine that way. I had some personal things come up with a family member that had passed away, so I was not available to continue showing that year, and in fact really didn't do much riding that year afterwards, and so brought him back the following year to try and do some more showing. Had some more family commitments that I wasn't then able to continue on with. And so then now this is year 2 that we're trying to start back and bring him to show condition.
Okay, super. So his case study is going to be great then for anybody that's had a horse out there that's been a little bit on and off, sound horse, nothing, major that way, but just life circumstances exactly like you're describing, that the horse just has not had the consistency that you would want. So he's going to be a great example for people as there's tons of people out there that have that scenario in their life.
Absolutely. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, well that's super. So then if we were going to say his time off, what would the actual off time be in this last segment up until you started the study?
So last year we showed him and had him in a fitness conditioning type program until the month of July. So mid-July, he finished his last show. And at that point, he got rode intermittently through the rest of the summer and this fall, just on some trail rides with friends. But, and I rode him at home here as well, for my own pleasure, but, you know, was not in what I would consider an appropriate conditioning program. The rides we were doing were essentially just walking, and we're fairly short. So his condition deteriorated from mid-July on, essentially, in terms of not being any kind of program. And it wasn't until just here in I guess December, January is when we just sort of made the decision, no, we're going to try once again, bring him back and be more committed. And we started this discussion on this project as well.
Okay, that's fantastic.
So what, I
And
guess
then
that's, yeah, 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
Okay, super. And were there any changes in that time off that happened to him? Did you notice any physical changes with him? I know he wasn't unsound going in, so probably no soundness changes, but anything you noticed just as an owner being around him?
Absolutely. So with him, the biggest thing, and you'll see it later when we get into more depth with videos and images of the horses, he has always had a posture with a weaker top line and a real potty kind of look to his belly. In part comes because he has a very short back and he is a fairly thick, you know, quarter horse type, obviously. So that becomes more pronounced. So I would say that was his major change, is that you could really see, obviously, the hay belly type thing come on, and then the back dropping down.
Okay, super. That's an excellent visual for people, because there is a lot of horses that as they lose condition end up in that posture, and that's one of the things that we really want to get out of this for people, is to understand how to look at their horse a little bit more from a standpoint of what could change, that the body is so plastic. So that's a really great visual for people. And then I think our last question on Neverey would be, what kind of goals would you like to have for 2020? I know this year, one of the reasons that we're having time to do these kind of podcasts and webinars is because not a lot of us are able to ride right now because so many barns are closed. But if 2020, you know, you could wave your wand and kind of get rolling again, what would your goals be for him for this year?
So for sure, the intent going into 2020 was to start him back into the show pen and really concentrate on making changes to the posture so that he could have a prolonged show life. He has been so healthy for us throughout his life and his career that I want to make sure that stays that way. And even though he's now obviously getting up in age, and especially as a cutting horse, he's quite old. So that is something I'm very cognizant of, is just trying to make sure, change the posture. And of course, knowing a little bit more now than I did even last year, how that's going to really play into his ability, physical ability in the pen. So that would be hopefully where we could have gone, would be to show him once more in the Alberta Cutting Horse Association. However, with the current situation, all Alberta shows have been canceled up until at least middle of May. And at this point, of course, with everything going on, it's looking potentially like it would be at least until July that those may start to come back on. So there hasn't been any directive yet in terms of what are we going to do. Is the show season not going to go at all? Or so all those variables we don't know, but my intent still is to get him in shape so that if we were to start tomorrow, we could go ahead and start.
Yay. Okay. Well, that's excellent because there's a lot of people coming out of winter that have the same outlook. They'd really like to do something this year, and let's get those horses prepared so that when stuff comes back online, we're all able to leap back into the things we love.
Absolutely. Yeah. That
So
would be
that's
great.
super. So we will be continuing this talk on Neverey and getting to see him in person in our next set of videos. And at that time, we'll talk about what changes you've noticed as a handler starting into this program, because we are about 2 months now into this program, coming up on our 3rd month. So we'll be excited to hear more about Neverey.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some pretty amazing changes even in the short period of time that I've noticed with him. So I'm excited to share that with everybody.
Well, that's super. Thanks so much, Kim.
All right, you take care. Thank you.